themes that you look at?
What made me focus?
Yes, on this. Yeah.
What made me focus on which themes?
On the themes, or the question was coming from, I'll repeat the question where it starts from. They said, thank you for sharing with us today. Your work shows your interest and passion in issues to do with Black excellence and Black culture and our Africanism. What inspired you to focus on these specific themes?
Okay, I think that fundamentally, I want to know who I am because I'm completely. I find the explanations of who I am from our earlier teachers, from the education we've been given, is completely inadequate. That the people who tries to teach us who we are have no idea who we are. So therefore, we're at their mercy. We're at the mercy of ignorance. And the only way, so if in the tradition of Malcolm X, you have to take responsibility for your learning. So I've taken that responsibility, and I want to learn what I've not been taught of the evidence that's lying around that's been ignored. Because I want to become a full person. I want to know all the aspects of myself. I know the negative aspects because our enemy makes sure we learn those. But what's the positive aspects? What have our people done? What gives our people agency? What was our history before, not only before slavery, but what was our history before the book of Genesis? I'm one of those people who feel, understandably, the more I know about religion, the less I like it. But I know that religion, for us, has been a tool of intense psychological warfare that we don't we come to understand very slowly. And the opening gun for that was two things. When I discovered by Googling how many expressions in the Bible condone slavery, and 52 expressions came up. Now, what does slavery have to do with the freedom of the soul? Absolutely nothing. And then I did further research to say, well, what is the basis of the St. James version of the Bible? And I kept digging there, and I found out that the St. James version of the Bible was printed by the English, as well as the Portuguese, as well as the French, as well as the Spanish, as a pacification tool. In fact, the English were the last people to actually acknowledge what it was. So the Bible they sent with their missionaries to Africa and to the Americas, subtitle was the Slave Bible. Don't take my word for it. Google it. Google the Slave Bible. So when you realize that everybody has conspired to fuck your head about then detach you from your own sense of value, you then realize that you cannot trust your enemy to educate you. You have to educate yourself. And you have to go, in this case, to primary source material that even the enemy has lost track of to try to refine, rediscover who are you, who are we, what were we? And that's the story that's been left behind in stone. Our ancestors somehow, as rich and smart as they were, had some inkling that we would forget. So I am totally thankful to them that they not only put it in every medium they could think of, in paintings, in designs, but mainly in stone. It's in stone, people. It's there. They left it behind because they knew we would be robbed and we would be forget. But if we are willing to dig to find it, it's there. And that's what sacred knowledge is all about. You don't stop with sacred knowledge. Take what sacred knowledge gives you, go follow it. Take it and go to these places and look at it for yourself and then do further research. Don't stop at what I've done. Take what I've done as a beginning, as a launch pad. It's out there. It belongs to you to know. And because the biggest problem with us is when we're dealing with our enemies is that they know our value, but we don't. That's why we undersell ourselves. And that's why we have self-hate for ourselves, because we don't know our value. I like to end this. If I can share one last thing with you, I like to share the film I did on Newt.
Okay.
Can you see it? You see a thing that looks like a sky? Okay, I'm going to start.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Could you make full screen?
I don't know how. Let's see. Let's see.
Underneath the cover of the coffin to welcome you home into her loving arms when you died. All sun plants look toward the canopy of heaven.
Autofill,
to the
fill,
home of the
screw,
regal
into full screen.
Yeah,
Does that
That's-
help?
it helps. Can we replay? Can you do replay?
Yeah.
And raise the volume.
Okay. You're asking me to do all these things and I don't know if I can do. Down.
To welcome you home into her loving arms when you died. All sun plants look toward the canopy of heaven of the regal and divine mother.
Okay, here we go.
Note is the womb of the universe. It is Note who brings all things into reality. And it is she who faces you from underneath the cover of your coffin to welcome you back home into her loving arms when you died. All sun plants look toward the canopy of heaven, to the home of the regal and divine mother. She is the watcher of the horizon. She is divine consciousness, peering through the prism of perfection. The light of her sunrise baptizes all of her divine creations in the spirit of oneness, pushing all things into a new day of life and existence. Newt, our heavenly mother, is the womb of the universe.
Hey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see there is a hand raised. Uncle Chen?
I'm muted.
Yes,
I
I
can't
see there is
see
a hand.
I can't see who's raising their hand from
Abby,
where I am. I don't know why. If you can let
Abby
them.
Kessington is raising their hand. Abby, you have the floor.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a great
Yes.
opportunity to be part of this, and I must say I have been uh, taught a great deal of Africa history today in the last maybe about 2 hours that I joined. But my question for Chester is, he had mentioned at the beginning that he was into black and white pictures, and that his son was the one who kind of brought his attention into color. And I say that a lot of the pictures he has shown us, even as he expound on the history of the Nile, because up until now, I knew that there were pyramids in Sudan, but I didn't think they had similarities with the ones in Egypt, and I see that there's a lot of colors now. So my question to him um, is where does this leave us? Where does this narrative leave us, the Black people? Where does this leave us? That's my question to you, Chester.
Well, I say it leads you to wherever you have the courage to go. Those who see it as some would see it as a validation of nagging suspicions. some will see it as may be upset because of all the miseducation. But I say that whatever you do, take it as a validation of your agency, of your capability. This is what we're capable as a people. We're capable of building the tallest building in the world until the Eiffel Tower was built, that still commands the space and still cannot be destroyed. That's what a pyramid is. Next time you're in a building and you go to the 35th floor, walk out and take a look from the 35th floor. That's the top of the pyramid. It wasn't until 2 centuries ago, 150 years ago, that there was anything bigger than that. The next thing is that our capability in building, we have the capability of reading the stars. That's how they invented the calendar.
Yeah.
We have the capability of physics. That's how we built the pyramids. We have the capability of what is going on in the unconscious world. That's why they built spirituality that became religion. Everything that, I'm sorry, but what has been the contributing culture of the Northerners compared to what our people contributed to humanity and civilization? Their only contribution is hatred and war.
Colonization.
Colonization. I'm sorry, that's not the max, and that's not the max of what life should be about. So don't relegate yourself to what you learn from the limitations that we learn from Northerners. They can't help it. That's who they are. But we can. Now that we know that we are something else greater.
Say that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow.
I have a question here in the chat. It says that, Chester, you have won numerous awards. You've worked with New York Times for over 4 decades. Is that not given validity to the Africans already? What's more, is there still more that can be done? Are we not accepted? Are we not heard? That's the question.
I have to say, I'm sorry. I don't care about other people accepting me. I don't do my work for other people. I do my work for African people. If other people accept it or not, that's their issue. That's their problem. I don't have time to deal with that. I do it for the people who need it the most, and that's us.
That's true. Then we have one more question. This question is talking about Anubis. I don't know if maybe Anubis is in your book, and they're saying Anubis is the dog head or jackal head.
Yeah,
and
Anubis.
That's D-O-G, and the Christians have G-O-D as God. They want you to explain how that links.
Well, I mean,
and we can move over to
first of all, God, dog is an English equivalency we hear. The Egyptians did not, first of all, they didn't say God and they didn't say dog. They had dogs, but they've not used the term dog. Anubis is a specific dog, the dog who's a guardian of the cemetery. So, when our people invented spirituality, English was not a language. And the English people were slaves of the Romans. So I really can't find their legitimacy of anything that's before them. I have to question.
All right, Chester. We can move on to Reina. Reina's hand is raised.
Hi, Chester.
Hey, Reina.
This was phenomenal. Thank you so much. I took a lot of notes. Also feeling a lot of things too. I tend to feel things before I understand like what they mean. And I just felt this like overwhelming feeling as you were speaking and sharing all of this tremendous knowledge. I just felt like somehow I wanted to just take your knowledge and just put it on me, you know? So I really,
Sacred now is a good beginning.
yes, I'm definitely going to read it. I really appreciate all of this, you know, hard work and dedication. And I'm from Alabama as well, and from Eufaula,
We
Alabama.
make good people.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, why do so many great people come from
Yeah.
Alabama? But in the beginning of your talk, you mentioned the importance of seeing, like seeing things. It's important to see things. And I believe that that's true. But can you talk about the importance of feeling too? Because you said you began to feel like disingenuous about, or I don't know if that's the word you used, but it was like you start to feel like a disconnect with religion, and then you went to school and you started learning about world religion. And so in my mind, I'm thinking you were feeling a calling for more. And I feel like that is what's been guiding you, like this deeper calling. So while it's important to see things, like see images and see people, you know, doing things, I think also if you tap into your feeling, you know that you are more, right? You know that there is more. And so can you talk about how that feeling has also guided you in your work?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, travel broadens all of us. But you know, when you were in grade school and you hear about history, you said, well, damn, well, you mean there were no black people in history? I mean, slavery is not black history. Don't get me wrong. Slavery is white history. Never let people confuse you about that. That's white enterprise of 20,000 ships over a couple hundred years enslaving human bondage. It's not black history. So I grew up around people who I knew had dignity. They were not in the books. There were no pictures of them. When I was growing up, only time you saw a picture of a black person in the media, Southern racist media, they were either a suspected prostitute or a drunkard. But nobody looked like my great uncles and my great aunts, people who were respectful, who took care of their families, who life meant things to them. So when I discovered, the reason I picked up the camera is that when I didn't realize, actually, that a camera was something that to be used until I walked into the studio one day of this Tuskegee old man photographer, and I saw accidentally behind some curtains very distinguished pictures of farmers from the Depression era. And I said, what is this? Because all his other pictures were of academics. I said, how does this fit? He said, well, it's a personal project. Farmers will come by my house on the weekend, on Saturdays, and when I see a great character, I will rush out and I will beg them to come back into my studio and let me make a picture. And if they didn't want to move, I offered them money. But I had to have that picture. So I said, wow. I said, you know, then that made me think. I said, you know, I have a great uncle and a great aunt who I really love more than my parents. And on their wall, they only have two things. They have the Farmer's Almanac. We're a farming community, 800 people. You got to have that. We raise peanuts, cotton, cane, tomatoes, blah, blah, blah. And they had a painting of Jesus Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane before his buddies ratted him out. So I said, you know, I want to make a picture of them to put on their wall because I want to see their heart smile, to see their sense of agency, that they're important enough to be on their own walls. And that led me down this whole encyclopedic life of trying to capture. I don't create nothing. I can only capture the real thing that's there. But it's there that's hidden from us. You look at television. Where are the positive images of our people? Why can't we do anything else other than push a ball? We work in corporations where the smartest of us go to Google and they want us, instead of working on research, they want us to go out and do sales and marketing. What the fuck is that shit about? We are greater people than that. If people can't understand what your ability is, fuck them. Go start it yourself. Do it yourself. And because it's just like the high school counselor telling you, well, you know, Johnny, you're really not college material, but if you do this trade, fuck you, bitch. I know what my mind is. I go do it myself. You stay where you are. I'm going to go do something else. You don't define me. If that's how you see yourself and your people, fine. But that's not how I see me. And that's the important thing about us. We have to develop an image of ourselves that we can respect and that moves us and that forces us to stand up. Look, the last thing people want to be is responsible for themselves. But the person who takes responsibility for themselves makes a difference. I didn't say be responsible for hundreds of other people. I said be responsible for yourself. Because that's a whole big thing once you get in there. And most of us, you know, the last person we want to deal with is ourselves. That's why we might try to deal with other people and listening to other people, which is fine if that's how you want to live, but that's not going to advance you. Unless other people around you are people who challenge you to do better. That's okay. But if there are other people who, you know, lay down and do nothing, that's not okay. I say always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. The people who can inspire you. Don't waste your time with people who are not smarter than you and who don't have ego, because ego is 100% of nothing. And if somebody's living on ego, get away from them. It's toxic. You don't need bad to do bad by yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have other questions? We'll take one or two more questions, then we give a vote of thanks. Any questions? No hands raised? All right. Before I give the vote of thanks, Rumbi Chen, give your last word and let Chester give his last word, and then I give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Professor. Chester, this book that you've done, this journey into our history, it has brought decency, depth, and dignity. Personally, I would like to go to Egypt, and even more so after reading this book. I hope everyone else gets to read this. Every other family gets to read this book so we can amplify our road to reclaiming our agency as African and people of African descent. Thank you, Power. Thank you, WAFORD, and everyone who's joined us. And thank you, Chester. That's all.
Good. Thank you very much. Now, I'd like to say one thing. Go to Egypt, everybody. But let me tell you something about the landscape, the political landscape in Egypt. The first thing is that the Egyptians there are not the Egyptians of the past. If you want to find the Egyptians of the past, you have to go find the Black people down in Aswan, the Nubians. The Egyptians who are there, who are being great custodians of our ancestors' work, are Arabs who came there invading armies in the 5th century. And they don't really call themselves Egyptians. They call themselves the United Arab Republic. The English, the French call them Egyptians, so they stay with it. There was a time when they cared nothing about any of these monuments. In fact, when you go to museums in Italy, Germany, France, England, you will find them full of Egyptian artifacts. How so? It's because the Egyptian government at that time says, hey, we don't care about this. You like this? Here, take it. And they did it. Over time, though, by taking it to these European capitals, and this started after Napoleon invaded Egypt and created what's called the biggest, the fundamental books on Egyptology, that Egypt then became aware of what this was about. By being in these museums, it spread interest and people have come. So therefore now, a third of the GNP of Egypt is based upon tourism, coming to see the museum without walls that our people left behind. Now, the Egyptians don't have a problem when they have movies of Cleopatra and she's white. But recently, you may have remembered that Cleopatra was done came out as a Black woman a couple years ago. What's the name of this actor who slapped the guy on stage? His wife.
Will Smith.
Will
Smith.
Yeah, what's his wife's name?
Jada Pinkett.
She produced this movie, Cleopatra, a Black Cleopatra. The Egyptians went crazy, batshit. Because the Egyptians, I'm not sure who hates Black people more, Arabs or white people, but it's neck and neck. And the Egyptians were very pissed off about this. So they did, but they had a problem. They're making all this money off of Black culture, but they don't want to be Black. Mm-hmm. But they also have a problem with their own religion.
Bring my back inside the garage because being so.
They also have a problem with their religion and their population. Most of their people are Muslims. Islam teaches no graven images. That's why in Afghanistan you had Muslims blowing up those Buddhist sculptures in the mountains. The Egyptian fundamentalists, they call the Brotherhood, feel the same way about all these ancient Egyptian monuments. They want to blow all the temples up because they are following. If they read Allah as fundamentalists, there's no place for these things. The pyramid is different. Because it's a design. It's not a person. But all of the thing that has people should be blown up, says the fundamentalists. So the Egyptian government had to find a way to deal with this. And what they decided to do is that they would teach from kindergarten class on that these monuments represent their ancestors. So the Arab today in Egypt will tell you, because they have been taught, that these people are their ancestors. This is meant as a design by the government to protect these monuments because they have proven to be so valuable. They would have problems with any African American who comes back and talk about, oh, these are mine. And they have been taught to ask one question to determine if they should become antagonistic to you. And that one question they ask you is, are you Afrocentric? If the answer is normally you would say yes, then they would feel, oh, well, these are my people. Well, then when they say that to me, my question to them is, why aren't you speaking this language? Read this on the wall. Tell me what this says. Why aren't you following that religion as opposed to the one that if these are your people? So I saw short circuit their bullshit, but you don't have to do that. Just say no and keep going.
Wow. Wow. Chester, I would like to say thank you on behalf of the Pan-African Writers Association, on behalf of writers of African origin in the diaspora, and on behalf of those here present and those who will be viewing this on YouTube later on. I really want to thank you tremendously because you have taken us on a journey. And I caught the expression, the catchy expression of the day is that they want to leave us at the mercy of ignorance. Leaving us at the mercy of ignorance is not an option we should accept.
Right.
You even took us on the journey on how they want to do it. I call that agnotology. That is the science of cultivating ignorance. They do it on purpose. The last example you just gave us, the Egyptians telling their children, these pyramids are the work of our ancestors. But their religion is teaching them they don't want graven images. So what do they do when they see in the tombs of the mummies the engravings, the drawings, how do they explain? Would they say it is because their religion had not been revealed to them? Will they say it is because the religion they were believing before contradicts what they later understood? They cannot give an explanation. So I think for the viewers here, take home this. Because this platform exists for the reason we have Chester here. Get our public intellectuals. Get those who've been before us. Those on whose shoulders we can stand. Give their voice, add their voice to ours to give us agency. Let's take that agency and run with it. Let us not sit and wait that somebody will do it for us. Chester just hammered. He summarized the history of slavery in a way I've never heard it before. It is not about Black history. It is about Western history of oppression. It is about Western history of dehumanization, exploitation, colonization, and the rest. These are things we should remember, that coming to hear Chester speak, we are going back now with a different mindset. We're not going to let anybody tell us that they want to show you the way up when all their life they've tried unsuccessfully to keep you down. Or every time they see you want to go up, they drag you down. So I would end there. I know there is much we could talk about. I'm looking at the time. It is lunchtime. People, or dinner time in some parts of the world. People might want to have something to eat. But once again, Chester, a big thank you. I would like everybody to unmute and come on camera and give Chester a big thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much,
Thank you,
Chester.
Chester. Thank you, Chester.
Thank you, Chester.
Chester, thank you. This was so exceptional. And I really appreciate your presentation. So thanks again. This is Sonia.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You have a blessed and wonderful day, and we will be talking. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.